I think we have to stay true to where we at as DJs, to breaking records and breaking new artists, to make sure that radio take heed to what we plan and make the DJ take the power back again. Come on. So my background is African American, Black, and Japanese. My father was in the service. He was in the Air Force. Met my mom in Japan. He was an Air Force pilot. My father was my first choice for a mother. My mother was trying to talk to somebody else. So I guess my dad, being a player, he intercepted that and stopped her. And my mom started bringing rice cakes to him instead of the other person. My mom gave up everything from being disowned from home family because first it was American, then it was a Black man. So at that time she left Japan and was like, she had no family. I gave a lot of props to my mom because she came here, and then when they came back to the States, they moved to the South, which is Louisiana, of all things. My family took heed to her, and my mom, I can tell you, was one of the best soul food cooks there is out there, being Japanese, you know. But she learned a lot from here, being in America. I love both sides, both cultures, man. I learned a lot on both, you know. But my Blackness is where I'm at, you know, and my Asian side is where it's at too. So, you know, I like ribs, and then I like sushi. So I have the oldest, which is my sister, is Teresa. She's the matriarch now, and after her is my brother Andrew, Joshua Jr., and then my middle brother, Xavier Joshua. So Xavier is the one where I learned how to DJ. I saw him, you know, doing things on the turntables. I was like, what is that? So I remember that because I was in 8th grade at the time. I saw him putting these two records together, and it was, I believe it was Human League, Don't You Want Me Baby. And he was going back and forth, and I was like, I mean, I think I was like a kid in a candy store just looking like, like, what are you doing? Can you teach me that? And he's like, if you really want to learn this, you got to be focused. You know, you have to practice every day. So every day when I used to come home from school, he'll lock me in his room for an hour. And he told me the first thing, like, you have to learn the BPM of the songs. You have to be open to every genre. I know you like house music, and we're doing house music, but you got to know R&B. You know, at that time, hip hop wasn't that big, but it's the rock stuff, you know, alternative rock. So I grew up listening to him play, and it got me very interested because he was the first person I saw who was really a DJ. And I remember to this day, like it was yesterday, they're getting ready to go to the warehouse in the power plant, and be like 11 o'clock midnight, and I was going to bed. And then I wake up in the morning like 9, 10 a.m., and they'd just be getting home. I'm like, where you been? He was like, I'm just coming back from the club. I'm like, that long? What y'all doing there? So he made me practice every day. Starting in 8th grade, freshman year, I started doing a lot of high school parties. So I was doing my, as they call it, gym jams. So we used to do a lot of parties like that. So I got in there and, you know, started going. So getting into high school, I was in one class, and people knew I was DJing at that time. But then there was a guy in back of my class, Hot Hands Hula, which was Hula Mahone. And he used to pick on me in the back, boom, boom, boom. I'm a better DJ than you, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, come on, man, you don't want to go there. Because I know, because I've been practicing and been doing the good. So, of course, I didn't have my equipment, but I had, you know, the gear at the house. I'm like, well, you just got to come over to the house and, you know, blah, blah, blah. So that's how we became really good friends. And been friends forever, over 30-some years now. So the transition from DJing to producing remixes to artists came in, I say, in 1987. That's when we found out I had a record in Chicago that was buzzing. A producer's record called I Have a Big Member, You can take it from what it's supposed to say. But it was buzzing in Chicago. You had some local DJs saying they did that record, which was Farley, Funk and Keith at the time. He was going around saying, that was my record. So then I found out we got wind. So it was, I used to do this party in the suburbs, in Harvey, I had a club called The Complex, myself, Hula Mahone. So we got wind. It was a friend of ours named Juju. He was a DJ. And he said, it's this guy named Liddell Townsend is going to do your record over for Trax Records with Larry Sherman. And I was like, what? How the hell you ain't gonna do that? So I had the DJ Juju invite Liddell Townsend down to our club at that time, knowing that he didn't really know that we really gonna whoop his ass. That's what was gonna happen, because I'm like, how's somebody gonna do my record? So the guy Liddell came down, and we was in a back room talking, and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna do a record over. Larry Sherman from Trax Record paid me to do it because it's a record that's buzzing, and he wanted it done over. And Liddell stated at that time, he's like, but you can come down to the studio with me and I tell Larry, this is your record, and then you guys can do it from there. And so that's how we became real best friends with Liddell Townsend at the time. So we did the I Got a Big Member on one side, and on the flip side, it was a record called Feel the Mood, what I did with Cool Rock Steady, and then Hula did a record on a B-side called This Is Acid. And that's when the acid sound future TB303, the Rolling Star, was all in effect at that time, and that's when Pierre turned the phrase acid house. So it was really big in Chicago. That record happened. A year later, we didn't think nothing of it. I get a call from a gentleman out in New York City, and he used to run the club that was called the Post Office. And he's like, I want you guys to come out and do a show. The first show was at the Post Office. And from that show, that night, we started to do 2 or 3 shows a night for a whole year in New York City alone. And that got me into the point of the music industry of being like, this is what I want to do. But I don't want to be in front. I want to be in back of it, because it wasn't my forte just to be an artist, because I didn't feel like coming up with the lyrics again and trying to be up on stage and doing that. But doing all the shows in New York City got me to see all the presidents of labels that was at first promo people just coming up the ladder. And then the record got signed to Vendetta A&M. They took us underneath their wings, man, and it was great. It was great because David Cole and Robert, they was our label mates. So, I got to meet David Cole, Robert Clavell at CNC Music Factory. They were our label mates at that time. And just to experience touring. I mean, I didn't think nobody knew how big that record was gonna be. Even my partner, Hula, at first didn't want to travel because he was like, it's no acid in there. It wasn't, if you listen to the original record of This Is Acid, it's got the TB303. That's why Hula was saying This Is Acid. But the remix didn't have nothing in there. Les Adam took the little sample and Move Your Body, tweaked it like Todd Terry. And I never forget the story. We were at the Tunnel and we were performing in This Is Acid, and Todd Terry was in the DJ booth. So he was kind of upset with us. He was like, y'all stole my sound. I'm like, listen, man, I ain't do the remix. That's Les Adams did that. In the crowd while we was performing, you had Busta Rhymes, you had Run DMC, you had Biz Markie, you had Guy, you had Kid and Play. And it was crazy how you had hip hop and everything come together with house at the same time. We actually just grew up together and just see everybody just being cohesive with each other and partying, hip hop, house, just all coming together. And it was a great movement. So when we came back home, We hooked up with our A&R person, Wayne Williams. He's with Jive Records at the time. And he had this record called Mr. Lee, called Pump It Up. And Wayne gave us our first remix. It was myself, Liddell Townsend, and Hula Fingers. So we all did remixes. And it was kind of crazy because it was all different type of remixes for each, like the underground mix, a little, more pop radio mix, and then you got the big club record. So that was our first remix that we got that was, like legit. I get a call from Steve Silk Hurley and his camp from ID Productions. And he was like, Maurice, I would love for you to come down, talk to you about, being a part of our crew. I think we can, do something where it can benefit everybody. And at the time, remixes was getting real big at the time. Cause you had Def Mix at the time. They was doing almost everything in the world. And then when we got together, our main goal was, we're gonna give you 3 sets of mixes for one price, which Steve would do the main radio club mix. You had my man Eric E. Smooth Miller give you the late night dub, and then I was straight underground. So it was like you getting 3 different mixes in one package. Oh my goodness, that blew up. At one point, we had Judy Weinstein call us and was like, okay, what are y'all guys doing? You taking almost 80% of our work out here, because we was just steady and banging them out. So it was definitely one of those rushes where it was like, okay, we create a name. So after I left ID Production, I started my own company and started doing the remixes myself of major artists. One of my big break artists at that time was Destiny Child. I have to give props to Dave German, who was at Columbia. He reached out to me like, Maurice, it's this girl group called Destiny Child. I'm like, that's a funny name for a girl group. I know it's kind of hard to hear Destiny Child without being like, that's a household name. But at the time, it was no Destiny Child. And I was like, that's a funny name. I don't care. He was like, trust me, you would want to do this. And I was like, please, he was like, please do this, because they're going to be one of the biggest groups ever. At the time, I'm like, okay, that's no problem. You hear that all the time. Absolutely, I do it. First single was Bills, Bills, Bills. So I had the whole concept because some people was doing live stuff at the time. You had David Morales, Louis Vega, the Masters at Work, I should say, was doing live stuff. I'm like, let's do something live. Be R&B and be live. So I gave them the concept, and they was like, yes, let's do it. I'm like, oh, really? So I had Destiny Child come down to Chicago, recut all the vocals. So while we were in the studio, we get a call that I was working on the remix of Say My Name. And we get a call from Matthew Knowles saying that, congratulations, y'all, you guys been nominated for the Grammys. So we all in the room clapping, and he was like, Maurice, not just the girls, but you too. So I'm just like, oh, I'm clapping it up with the girls too. So it was very exciting at the time to be a part of that and be a part of history. So I was nominated 3 times with them. And then Beyonce went to her solo album, which was Crazy in Love. That was the one that was nominated for another Grammy. And that's the one I won for in 2004. That's the best remix of the year for that year, 2004. But it was funny because pulling up to the Grammys at that time was after 9/11. So this is 2004. They checked in your car. They had to go underneath the limos and everything, and you had to stand in line, and then they push you through. So when we went through after security check, my driver, instead of going left, went right. But right goes back into traffic. So now it takes another 45 minutes to get back around. So while we go back around, go through security again, we go left this time, I'm getting out the car, and I'm hearing everybody on the red carpet screaming, Maurice, Maurice, because some of the people was from the Chicago chapter that was helping out with the Grammys. They was like, you just won. You just won. Pharrell is up there saying your name, run, run, run. So I'm running through, trying to get through, and he gets off stage, so they run me through the back to do press. And that's when I just found out that I just won for that year. I missed it, like 5 minutes, missed it. What was it like during COVID? Oh, man, it was something different we never seen before. I mean, when everything shut down. I mean, and when I mean everything shut down, everything shut down. So I was working for a church I go to back in Chicago. So I was lending my talent, giving my gift back there. So gifting means like doing audio, visual, which I love to do, man. And I get to hear the word too, which was great. And then at that time on the DJ side, people was real switching over Facebook, trying to stream there, but it was cutting everything off. So they was trying to figure that out at the time. So it was trying to do Instagram, and then a lot of people went to Twitch. I just did what I felt like was in my heart. I don't like doing it because somebody else is doing it. Everybody went to different platforms. I was just like, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. I went live on Facebook because it's something I wanted to do. And love spinning and making everybody happy and playing great music. And new music at that time too, because still a lot of stuff was coming out but wasn't being heard because there was nowhere to play it at. So it was crazy because this is the first time where people was putting out music but couldn't hear it. So if you go back to 2020, you can still play those records to this day because they're new because nobody was playing it anywhere. So which was great. So during that time, during George Floyd, all the BLM movement, I think it was something that had to be seen. I think when everybody was focused on one thing, I think that's when the rest of the world came together because I haven't seen that in a long time where these young kids stood up for something. And it was a movement around the world. And not only in that place where it happened, not in Chicago, not in New York, but all over the world. And you got other countries that was marching and standing up for just being right. And it's still going on to this day. You have people of the owners say, we don't want it urban. We know what that means. You don't have to tell us in the eggshell what it's about. And that's the thing I don't like because you want to embrace the culture and the music, but you don't want our people in there. And that's one thing I don't like, I dislike a lot. Fast forward 2023, I get a call from a good friend, Brad Lebeau, saying that he has a Jimmy Jam Terry Lewis featuring Tony Braxton record. He wants me to do a remix on. Brad pushed me on this one to doing something out of the realm, and it was just very meticulous how it was just produced. It felt really good though. So where I think the state of club culture is we're hurting, man. The days of we're going to a conference and hearing a record being broke by other DJs and getting so excited to come back home and play that record, it's not there anymore. You get 1,000 records every day that comes out that you have to, shift through to listen to figure out what'll work. Everybody who's playing stuff in the club is what they playing on radio. And it never used to be like that. Club used to dictate radio with everything, and we don't have that anymore. I used to spend at one of the hottest clubs in Chicago called the Spy Bar. I had radio programs come there, was hot. I got on Chicago radio because the club was hot and what I was playing in there. And I wasn't playing what was on radio. The future looked like for me in a couple of years, retirement. People don't know this. I just want to have like a farm, seriously. I want to have some cattle, some chickens. I want to grow my own food and just play some music on the farm, man, and be good like that. Really, that's what I want to do, and just be healthy. That's the key thing right now, just being healthy, being able to do what I need to do, what I want to do, when I want to do it. That's the future.